Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 7th SEARCA Online Learning and Virtual Engagement Webinar, or SOLVE for short. My name is Kim Bantayan, and I am the Program Specialist of Training for Development Unit of the Education and Collective Learning Department. The short video shown earlier has given you a glimpse of what SEARCA is all about and what we do. But if I may add, SEARCA is hosted by the Philippine government on the campus of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. So we are coming to you live from Los Baños, Laguna, Philippines, the special science and nature city of the Philippines. We all know that one of the challenges that we are facing right now during this COVID-19 pandemic is how to secure food for our families. This SOLVE webinar series is SEARCA's immediate response to the emerging impacts of COVID-19 global pandemic on food security by maximizing the use of information and communication technology platforms to inform, to educate, and to share tested technologies and evidence-based solutions, as well as best practices on the ground to address food insecurity. Today's online conversation is a continuation of our webinar held last week on sustainable agricultural intensification, focusing on conservation agriculture. This morning, we will be discussing efforts to solve food and nutrition insecurity through open systems agricultural mechanization. We will be joined by speakers from Cleber, LLC USA, the Royal University of Agriculture, Cambodia, University of the Philippines, Los Baños, and from Bacolod City, Philippines, who will give us a peek into what technology, particularly open systems mechanization, can do for farmers and its potentials to improve farm productivity. But before we proceed, please allow me to quickly go over some interesting statistics gathered from our previous webinar, from the webinar held last week. Shown on your screen right now. The infograph shows that 81% of our online viewers last week were female, and the rest were male. This data has been consistent with the figures gathered over the past 6 webinars that we've had where women dominated our online attendees. The infograph also indicates that there were only 32 individuals who were able to tune in via Zoom, while more than 800 viewed the webinar through SEARCA's Facebook page. And lastly, we've had online attendees from the USA, from Saudi Arabia, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Laos PDR, Cambodia, Timor-Leste, Myanmar, Indonesia, and the Philippines. This shows the number of individuals and countries that SEARCA's webinar has reached so far. We're trying our best to be able to reach as many individuals, farmers, and farming communities as possible through this online platform and really make a difference in the lives of our stakeholders, especially in this COVID-19 era. Now, going back to today's webinar, you will see today's lineup of speakers on your screen. After my introduction and few housekeeping rules, Mr. Horace Clemmons, owner of Cleber LLC, will discuss the open systems agricultural machinery manufacturing. Mr. Lyhour Hin follows and will share with us his experiences in using the Oggun tractor in Cambodia. Our next speaker is Dr. Victor Rodulfo, Jr., the Director of BioMech of the College of Engineering and Agro-Industrial Technology of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. He will be presenting the initiatives and programs of BioMech in support of open mechanization in the Philippines. And for our last speaker, we will have Mr. Ramon Uy, the man behind the success of Foundry and Machine Shop Corporation. He will talk about the various technologies that he developed and how it made a difference in the lives of smallholders, including his plans to manufacture the Philippines' very own tractor. We will have the Q&A at the end of all the presentations. For those of you who are joining for the first time, our speakers will begin very shortly with their presentations that you will see on your screen. During the presentations, we invite all of you to send in your questions via the comment section if you are watching us through SEARCA's Facebook page. If you are registered and tuned in via Zoom, please post your questions or comments in the Q&A section that you will see at the bottom or top of your screen, depending on the gadget you are using. We will collate the questions, and once we are in the Q&A session, our speakers will address them in the time remaining. May we request you to kindly indicate your location and our country of origin. It would be good for us to know where you are watching this webinar. We encourage you to please like SEARCA's FB page by pressing the little thumbs up sign just below the cover photo for us to remain socially connected. By liking our FB page, you will regularly receive updates on our learning events, webinars, and postings on recent developments in agricultural and rural development. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and will be made available on SEARCA's Facebook page and YouTube channel. We are happy to inform you that you can now access the recording of the first 3 Solve webinars. You may also subscribe to SEARCA's YouTube channel. Today's presentations will be made available on SEARCA's website at www.searca.org. You may check them out in a day or two if you want to refer back to them. The slides shown during the first 5 webinars or first 6 webinars have already been posted on SEARCA's website. If you have issues or experiencing technical difficulties with Zoom online platform, please email my colleagues at solve@searca.org. I repeat, please email my colleagues at solve@searca.org if you are experiencing technical difficulties. Without further ado, let me now turn over the screen to our first speaker this morning, Mr. Horace Clemmons. Horace is the founder of Cleber LLC, the company which introduced the Oggun tractor. He worked for IBM from 1965 to 1983. He started Post Software International, which he ran from 1983 to 1997, and had offices in 7 countries and employed 400 people. It was the first company to use PCs to run business transactions. Horace served as Jackson County, Alabama County Commissioner from 2008 to 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Horace Clemmons.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be with you today, and I'd like to use this opportunity to share some things I've learned over my 77 years, and in particular the last 5 years in this journey to create open systems for manufacturing for agricultural equipment implements. So it's a journey that my first farming experience was on my grandfather's farm, walking behind mules, and now I'm building a tractor similar to the ones that existed in his life, but that he could not afford. And that's a problem that I find today, and a problem that I believe we can solve, is that smallholder farmers can't afford to buy tractors. The thing that I have that gives me a distinct advantage is that I came out of a software environment, and I saw the move from proprietary systems to open systems computing, and I realized that experience is very applicable. But as I look at tractors, I say, well, is the tractor the solution to a problem, or is it a solution to a symptom? And I say it's really a solution to a symptom, that our problem is really the global economic divide, and that we have to look at the whole piece of it and say, how can I affect the most of it? So in looking at that, I say, the major symptoms that we see from it are issues with healthcare, education, poverty, and across all of that, those are all symptoms of the global economic divide. So today we have globalization in the business models that have created that, and all business models that we've seen historically have been designed to move all the money to the top, to the kings, to the rich, and the shareholders and executives. So in building the tractor, I said we've got to create not just an open system manufacturing model, but we also have to create a different business model that allows those at the bottom of the economy to make money, and one that provides all the tools to the people at the low end of the economy that are used by the people at the top end. So if we don't have the same tools at the low end of the economy that Amazon and Alibaba use, then we will never be effective competing with them. And as long as we buy our products from the major global manufacturers, we'll never be able to catch up. So I believe with an open systems manufacturing model, we can solve that problem, but we also must have an e-commerce model, and I'll briefly touch on that later. Major focus is on the concepts of manufacturing. So we all agree that mechanization provides the path forward to increase the productivity of the smallholder farmers. But with the current business models that we have, they can't afford the equipment and the implements, and only the big farmers can afford anything. So as I started this journey, I said, well, how can I solve this problem? And my history of software gave me the solution to the problem. So I was working for IBM in the days where all systems were proprietary. If you brought your computer from IBM, you had to get your parts from IBM, you had to get your service from IBM. If you wanted it changed, they had to change it. And that's where John Deere is today. But in 1980, an IBM employee created a new business model. I knew him personally. His name was Don Estridge. And he is the person that developed the IBM personal computer. I went in his office to talk to him before it was announced because I was wanting to use it, and I saw a sign on the wall behind his desk. And that sign said, "We will build a computer using all off-the-shelf, easily obtainable parts, and we will publish the design specifications." Now, Don died in a plane crash in 1985, or he would be the most famous person in computing today. So that model is what changed everything. So if you look at it, he invented the PC, which became the computer on the chip. So from that start of the PC, Don Estridge created a business concept that changed everything. What he did is, I go through this, you'll see, is the concepts Don Estridge came up with is what has created some of the world's top billionaires. So once the computer on the chip, then you came up with connectivity architecture so that everybody, multiple suppliers could make all of the storage, the printers, the communications. And then that gave the rise to a common interface so that chip could drive a computer that was a phone, a computer that was a tablet, a laptop, a PC. Even supercomputers are built off that. Operating sit on top of all that hardware, and people get to choose their operating system. And then the development tools. So all of that architecture that got developed with standards, with published interfaces for each layer, created the ability for Facebook to exist. LinkedIn, Google, Amazon, all of these businesses exist because Don Estridge created an open systems model and a standards interface. Had he not published that interface, we would still be where we are in agricultural equipment today. We would have to buy our computers from one person, and all the software would have to come from that one person. So standards changed everything in computing and changed the world. So all that I've done is copy what Don Estridge did. I said, I'll build a tractor using all off-the-shelf parts and publish the design. So that's a concept that sold those tractors in 20 countries, 28 states in the United States, and published the design, giving everybody the ability. I also changed the business model. So the model is, I don't sell tractors, I license the intellectual property. So under this concept, every country can make the tractors themselves, and for each one they make up to 1,000 tractors, they just give me $250. So the business model is one that creates opportunities and other jobs within the community of each country. I'll give you a quick look at the tractor. So this is the Oggun 2 model of the tractor. So that quick turnaround space is important in that it saves time and crop space. So when you look at that, I say, okay, let's look at the concepts that Don Estridge used and let's apply them to equipment and implements. So the architecture of Oggun is, I said, I don't care what type of engine I use. I can use a gas engine, a diesel engine, or an electric engine. But I'll find ways to provide power beyond. And so since I'm using a gas engine, I use hydraulics for power beyond. So I created off of that what I call a universal power platform. And from that, you can build anything. So that gives you, much like the software, you do the layers. And you can do a tractor, but off the same components, you could do a skid steer, you could do an excavator. So all of the different things that you need for the farm could be done. So as you see, we have the universal power platform, which is Oggun 2. We're in the process of making a 2-wheel tractor and should have that available in January, February, but it really will be operating off of a downsized version of the universal power platform. So all the concepts will be the same. The engine will be smaller, the hydraulic components will be smaller, and it'll be a 2-wheel tractor. And the goal on that is to also put in some design features that make it significantly better than the 2-wheel tractors that are there. One of the things we'll be doing is on the 2-wheel, we'll be putting the implements in front instead of having them getting away your feet on the back of the tractor, and several other improvements. So the other piece that I talked about is the need for an e-commerce engine. So along the same time, we have developed an e-commerce engine such that the farmer can list their products much like it would be listed on Alibaba or Amazon, and provide for same-day delivery of those products to consumers. So it handles letting the customer order and get same-day delivery and scheduling the drivers and everything, just like Uber Eats or any of the other things. So that's pretty much what I have. You know, the key to open systems is easy to realize if you look back at the fact that in 1980, the system of computers was similar to the system of equipment today with the John Deeres and the Kubotas. And turning computing and software into an open systems model changed everything such that the expansion was significant. So we can do the same thing by publishing open systems and focusing on local building of our own products. So with that, I am ready to turn it over to the next speaker. And I appreciate the time that you have given me.
Thank you, Horace, for that very interesting presentation and for sharing with us your learnings and insights gained in your journey that spans more than 7 decades particularly on your journey to develop an open systems manufacturing environment that benefits farming and farming communities. The key message here is that mechanization is the way to go if we really want to improve the lives of our smallholder farmers. The business model that Horace has presented to us does not require huge investments. The business model that Horace presented is an open system mechanization technology that will allow farmers to increase production and at the same time provide livelihood opportunities. Thank you for that, Mr. Horace. We'll get back to you during the Q&A session. Moving on, our next speaker is Mr. Lyhour Hin. Mr. Lyhour is a lecturer and head of the Agricultural Machinery Department, Faculty of Agricultural Engineering, Royal University of Agriculture, Cambodia. He is currently pursuing his PhD on Oggun tractor and conservation agriculture at the same university. The screen is yours, Mr.
Yes.
Lyhour.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing me in this program. I can say today is very exciting for me to be part of SEARCA webinar in the 7th webinar. And before I talk into detail about the topic today, let me introduce myself a bit. As you heard earlier, I'm the head of Agricultural Machinery Department at the Royal University of Agriculture. And today's topic is about the Oggun tractor in Cambodia. I have 3 main points to share. The first one is about my university focus, the experiences I have with the Oggun tractor so far, and my future activities. So let's begin with the university focus. The Royal University of Agriculture is the top university in agriculture in Cambodia. And it has provided a lot of programs. And one of the programs that is interesting is mechanization, agricultural engineering. Currently, this university aims to modernize farming in Cambodia through producing engineers, graduates that can be able to provide local design and do the fabrication to meet the local demand, the market demand, and the farmers' need. And luckily, in 2018, we got one tractor, the Oggun tractor, which was introduced to Cambodia, specifically to my university. And then a year later, Mr. Horus, the founder of this tractor, also visited my university. And it was amazing that we discussed a lot about the concept of the open machinery systems. In fact, this concept was quite new for me, but after a long discussion and a series of discussion involving several stakeholders together, we started to feel that this kind of concept can be fundamental for the development in Cambodia, especially to promote especially to build up the capacities of engineers in here. After that, we made a discussion together with Horus and other relevant stakeholders about the design of a local tractor, the Oggun Cambodia tractor in Cambodia. Since this tractor is an open source tractor, so it is open to any countries in the world to produce it on their own. And then we decided to make a name and a logo for the tractor in Cambodia. And here it is. We got the name and a logo. You can see the name is a click and the logo is a water buffalo. In Cambodia, it means quick and strong. And we hope that we're gonna make a click tractor in Cambodia that is quick and strong to serve the country, to serve farmers. And then we were given a good opportunity to meet with an international delegate. We showed an Oggun tractor on a regional training, which was organized in Kampong Cham province, Cambodia. We showed the Oggun tractor by doing the demonstration to delegates from almost all over the world, from Africa, from America, from Asia, from Europe. And we hope that it can work and serve the conservation agriculture here in Cambodia. And luckily, again, last year I went to the US to meet with an expert on conservation agriculture machinery. I met with Dr. Kanaki, who did a lot of testing, especially the Oggun tractor on CA fields. And there we discussed the collaboration, joint research, and possibility of, improving the effectiveness of the Oggun tractor along with the implements that can work in the CA fields. Then we were given an opportunity to do the testing with a vegetable transplanter that was designed by Dr. Kanaki. He's working for the National Soil Dynamics Lab at the United States Department of Agriculture based in Alabama. And it was exciting to me and to the team from Cambodia when I did the testing with the Oggun using a vegetable transplanter. It is specifically for no-till conditions, and the transplanter could work. And we hope to bring one as a model here in Cambodia to do a multiplication or a replication under his agreement, Dr. Kanaki's agreement. A week later, we went directly to the mechanical workshop owned by Mr. Horus. We met with his mechanician, and fortunately, we was given an opportunity again to do the assembly, of the whole tractor. The delegate didn't have any experience with the assembly before, but it was quick for us. We spent only 8 hours to assemble the whole Oggun tractor, and we tested the driving as well. After seeing the advantage and the versatility of the Oggun tractor early this year, in January 2020, we organized a training in Cambodia, the assembly training. We brought spare parts directly from the US, and because I have an experience, so I was the trainer in that training, organizing a group of students doing the assembly. It was amazing. It took even less time than I spent in the US. It took only 6 hours to finish the assembly. I just want to emphasize the testing of the implement designed by Dr. Ted Kanaki. I tested his crimper on the experimental plots, and I tested it on the farmer's field as well. And you can see in the picture, there's a crimper at the bottom of the tractor. And here it is. I did the testing, the crimper testing in Ratanamandal district, Banabang province, in the northwest of Cambodia, where you can see a lot of CA farming. And I did the crimping. I did the crimping with the sunham. Firstly, the sunham is a cover crop grown to produce biomass and nutrient for the soil. Firstly, when the sunham was big enough at the blossom stage, we did the crimping, and after crimping, you can see the picture on the right side here. All the cover crop was flattened down like this, like a mat on the soil. And it may take about 2 to 3 weeks to fully decay. And after that, we could do the seeding. And in the place where I did the experiment, farmers mostly grow corn, field corn for animal feed. And after I did the crimping, especially when the cover crops were totally terminated, we did the seeding, the no-till seeding with field corn. and we, in almost 3 months and a half, we did the harvest and we evaluated the yield we got. The yield was, higher than the national average yield of field corn. And in addition, we also did the testing with Oggun PTO for rice farming. As you may know, Cambodia is famous for rice farming. There's a lot of rice farmers. So if I can integrate the Oggun tractor in the rice farming system, it's gonna be quicker for me, to promote open systems, especially a locally produced tractor in the future. And we did the rice spreading experiment. We got the result. It worked. It worked. And here it is. This is my future activity. As I mentioned earlier, I'm the head of the machinery program in this university, the Royal University of Agriculture. And because I can see the benefits of open systems to create the innovation for students, because learning this system, the students may become more independent to think about what they can do in a collaboration. And what I will do is to introduce the open systems in the existing engineering program provided by my university. And after that, integrating these systems alone is not enough. I want to see that it works. And then what I will do next is to reach out to private sector to ensure that the tractor or implements that we wish to produce in the future can provide benefits to local manufacturers, to the university, to students and farmers. And that's all for my presentation. If you have any question, just feel free to ask. Thank you. Thank you, Ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Lyhour, for sharing with us your experience in the use of the Oggun tractor to the point that you already have a name, a logo and a name for your own tractor, and that you also showed us how easy it was to assemble the tractor yourself. Thank you so much. Now we move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is the current director of the Center for Agri-Fisheries and Biosystems Mechanization, or BioMech, of the College of Engineering and Agro-Industrial Technology, or CEAT, of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños. An agricultural engineer by profession, he has provided numerous technical assistance and expert services to cooperatives and farmers' organizations to improve their post-production operations. Ladies and gentlemen, here to talk about BioMech's initiatives on open systems, agricultural machinery manufacturing, please welcome Dr. Victor A. Rodulfo Jr.
So thank you, Kim, and good morning and good evening to the other parts of the world. So my presentation actually will focus on how the tractor was brought here in the Philippines, considering that the Philippines is an all-imported. We have an all-imported tractors here in the Philippines right now. So it's our challenge right now how to invade this country with the imported tractors. So next is by passing, I will just present what is BioMech, how is BioMech, and where is BioMech. So BioMech is a Center for Agri-Fisheries and Biosystems Mechanization here at the College of Engineering, UP Los Baños. So that's why I'm presenting this background, because what is our role in bringing this tractor in the Philippines? So our vision is excellence in research, development, and extension, committed to fisheries and biosystems mechanization in the Philippines, responsive to the challenges of food security, energy sustainability, environmental protection, climate change, and globalization. with a vision of providing innovative agri-fisheries and biosystems mechanization technologies through cutting-edge research, strategic public service extension delivery methods, synergistic networking, and responsive policy advocacies towards environment-friendly, gender-sensitive, and sustainable agri-fisheries and biosystems modernization, with some of our activities on technology accessibility and adaptation to agriculture and fisheries communities, research and development activities influencing national. So we have also advocacies on national policies regarding agricultural mechanization, and we are providing capability building for agri-fisheries mechanization. And last function of the center is to provide public service to fisheries sector and mechanization, on mechanization. So these are some of our trusts. We have food security, as mentioned in our mission and vision. We have food security on crops, food security concerning crops, precision agriculture, alternative food sources mechanization, post-harvest mechanization, food and feed processing technology, aquaculture engineering, contiguous farms, or these contiguous farms, sometimes we call it the land consolidation to affect the effective use or application of agricultural mechanization technologies. We have also the environmental protection concerns, and I will emphasize that we have also the soil and water conservation technologies and right now we are adding this conservation agriculture as our main function. So we have also energy sustainability, energy efficient technologies, renewable energy technologies, and climate change, and so on. So how did Oggun came into the picture in the Philippine machinery industry? So it started last year, in the middle of the year, 2019. Dr. Manny Reyes of the Kansas University Sustainable Intensification and Innovation Laboratory, he offered us to include a Oggun tractor in our extension activities. He is very passionate to have this tractor be brought to the Philippines, and if it happens, this will be the first Philippine-made tractor. So, as also an alumnus of this university, we accepted his offer, and right then and then, he shipped to the Philippines 1 unit of the tractor, and that will be used for our demonstration unit for the proposed workshop. So, and in this year, January 13 to 14, 2020, we organized, the BioMakin organized it's a consultative workshop, because we do not know if this will be acceptable to our manufacturers, to our farmers, and so on. So we did this consultative workshop on the assembly and transfer of technology on open system tractor design and implements for conservation agriculture for sustainable intensification in the Philippines. So the participants, I will just talk some of the participants during the workshop. We invited manufacturers from the different organizations. There is the national organization, the Agricultural Machinery Manufacturers and Distributors Association, or the AMDA, and 2 representatives came over and attended the workshop, the Agricom and the RU Foundry and Machine Shop Corporation. And we have this local agricultural machinery manufacturers, the LAMA. It's just within this around Laguna, UP Los Baños, and one participant came, and the other participants came from the Metal Industries Association of the Philippines. It's a big association, and we sent the Global Marketing and Construction Corporation, the Machine Systems Corporation from Cebu City. It's a city in the Visayas region. So with that workshop, we came into major agreements that Cleber will authorize the BioMech through an MOU. Actually, it's not very concerned about the MOU. he just said that in principle of trust, he will provide us design and fabrication drawings to interested local manufacturers. So it's our duty now on how that we are tasked. We will coordinate with the original designer, Cleber, Mr. Horace, and we will coordinate with the manufacturer. So it's we will be in between with the Cleber and the manufacturer. So we are tasked to have this understanding. So, and BioMakin, we will coordinate and collaborate with Cleber, LLC, KSU, and SEARCA, and local manufacturers for the local manufacture of Oggun in the country. So that was what happened during the first activity. Major activity was conducted last January 13 to 14, and right now, even though we have this lockdown, we have pursued with our activities. So what you can see here in the slides are just the workshop proper. So we have the speaker from Mr. Horace, the director of SEARCA, Dr. Glenn Gregorio, and we have invited Dr. Manny, invited also Dr. Ted Carnegie of the USDA, the Foreign Agriculture Service, or yes, from the USA, and Dr. Manny. This is Dr. Manny Reyes, and we have also our expert in smart agriculture who provided some knowledge and insights on how we can integrate the Oggun tractor in our programs on smart agriculture. So these are some of the participants during that workshop. And this one is, after the workshop, we assembled, actually the Oggun tractor was brought here in the Philippines, knockdown conditions. And we assembled the Oggun tractor within 5 hours. Sorry, Mr. Lyhour, you said that you have assembled the tractor in six hours, and we did that in 5 hours. Okay, it's just so after these activities, after the workshop, we have these initiatives on open systems agricultural manufacturing. So right now we have facilitated the distribution of the design and fabrication drawings of the Oggun tractor to interested manufacturers. Actually, we limited this distribution to only about 4 or 3 manufacturers. We have more than 300 agricultural machinery manufacturers in the Philippines. But if we will give that to all these manufacturers, then we will have a problem. So in the meantime, we are just limiting this distribution to our selected manufacturers. Actually, those who attended only the workshop first. So right now, we are formalizing the agreement with our collaborators through a letter of understanding. So, but there is also that clause that we have to do it with trust. Okay, that's what Mr. Horace said to us. We will work together with the principle of trust. So, as an offshoot of that collaboration, we are now preparing a big proposal with these partners, the SEARCA, KSU, the Cleber LLC, USDA, Foreign Agriculture Service. We are preparing a proposal on invigorating and mainstreaming the organic conservation agriculture through sustainable production and mechanization innovation in the Philippines, with the Oggun tractor as our prime mover of the implements for conservation agriculture and vegetable organic production. And part of that, in that proposal, we are proposing to encourage our partners to collaborate with the SCU's Agricultural Biosystems Engineering undergraduate curriculum program in the project development. So right now we are as what we call as consortium with these agencies. We are meeting every week to discuss on this on the developments of the Oggun tractor, conservation agriculture, and so on. So we have developed this kind of partnership. So every week we are meeting through the Zoom or this online meetings. So we are now have what we call it. It's not. It's still just informal meetings every week to discuss on the developments of our undertakings. And so, in a way, we will continue with our collaboration, networking, and partnership with our RDE partners towards the manufacture of the Philippine-made. So we will call it the Oggun tractor. If we can develop one unit, we will call it the Philippine-made four-wheel tractor. And our next speaker will present his four-wheel tractor. The four-wheel tractor he's here fabricating at his office in the Bacolod region, in the Visayas region, and actually that's all for my presentation. So thank you, good day, and stay safe.
Thank you, Sir Vic, for your presentation about BioMech and how it promotes sustainable agricultural mechanization strategies in the Philippines. It is worthwhile to note that BioMech is currently coordinating and collaborating with Cleber LLC, Kansas State University, SEARCA, and other local manufacturers for the local manufacture of Oggun tractor in the country. This is a fitting example of the academic, industry, and private sector partnership that we need to capitalize on if we really want to achieve greater impact and sustainability in the agriculture sector. Thank you so much for that, Sir Vic. We will go back to you for the Q&A. So moving on to our last, but certainly not the least speaker in today's online conversation. Our speaker is the founder of RU Foundry and Machine Shop Corporation, or RUFMSC, a company which has become a byword in the industry when it comes to the production of quality metal products and equipment. The company also manufactures shredders and other machineries and equipment. Our speaker is also an advocate of organic farming in the country and is pushing for small-scale muscovado production as a source of livelihood for rural families. The muscovado production facility designed by our speaker has a sugar cane crushing machine manufactured in his shop. So, Mang Ramon, the screen is yours.
A person who wakes up early in the morning and works all day deserves to be rich. How come our farmers are still poor today? Because of lack of appropriate technology. I think Oggun is technologies that could elevate our farmers and Philippine agricultures are the following. Oggun is one which is very important in terms of planting and tilling the land. So these are the parts that we have already made. As soon as the engine and the hydraulics arrive, we'll be able to assemble it. This costs us less than 100,000, the parts. So what is our future goal? It is rural industrialization in the Philippines. We will set up small machine and fabrication shop and conduct basic training to farmers in rural areas through the assistance of Central Philippine State Universities. Farmers themselves will produce some parts of the tractors. If they can make a tractor, they can also make other farm implements and tools. Repair and maintenance of equipment will be done by the farmer themselves. It will be technology transferred to the farmers. So rural industrialization in the Philippines will be attained. Job opportunities for the children of farmers, additional income for farmers, acquire new skills, more economic activities in rural areas, accelerate mechanization of farms. We have already made the first Philippine-made 12 horsepower diesel engine in partnership with DOST MARDC, Supercast Machine Foundry and Machine Shop Corporation, and RU Foundry and Machine Shop Corporation. The 5 units are already being used in other equipment for trial and testing. And we intend to scale up this engine in order to be suitable for Oggun tractor in the future. What are the other technologies that we intend that we have been doing here in the Philippines? We teach farmers to produce their own organic fertilizer through vermicomposting technology. Of course, most of you are familiar with this technology. It's low cost. Why low cost? Because the material is free. Why low tech? Because the procedure is very simple. Gather, shred, compost, and vermicompost. It is scientifically based because a lot of scientists have already said that using vermicompost in the plant is good for the plants. No? Because the vermicompost, you feed the soil and the soil will feed the plants. And we've been using that with our farmers here in the Philippines. What are the technologies? As mentioned by Ma'am Rose, we set up Mascobado mill. How did we arrive with this technology? We engage farmers all over the Philippines. We go to their place. We ask them what are their problems, what are the possibilities. So when we went to one farmer, agrarian reform beneficiaries, he mentioned us that they find it hard to have their sugarcane mill in a big sugar mill. So what we did was we designed a small-scale Mascobado mill, which is 600 to 800 kilos per hour capacity. So in a village, if there are 20 families, the wives could go to the mill and have their sugarcane crushed and get juice, bring it home and cook it, and they will have Mascobado. Mascobado could be sold at 60 to 80 pesos per kilo, so they will have around 240 to 300 pesos per day income. We also have set up some agricultural tramline wherein farmers who used to bring their produce from one mountain to the other, it will take them 2 hours. As soon as we install the tramline, it will take them only 5 minutes to go to the other side. We have installed this all over the Philippines, in Iloilo, here in Negros, several units have been. And the farmers have been using it for their own benefits. Then we also have this solar-powered irrigation system, wherein with the irrigation system, the farmers could have one season for his plantation. Especially the rain-fed farmers, they have only one cropping per year. If you put irrigation system, they could have 2 or a maximum of 5 in 2 years. What's going to happen to them? They will be able to increase their production because they have control of the water from more or less from 30 to 50% of increase in production. And this is a one-time expense for the government. Then we also set up lemongrass distiller. This will be a substitute for charcoal making in the upland areas of the provinces here in Negros. So instead of cutting trees, we provided them one distiller. We buy the oil from them at 2,000 pesos, 1,500 to 2,000 pesos per liter. For every 250 kilos of lemongrass, you could extract more or less 1 liter of oil. So instead of them using charcoal making, they opted to use lemongrass production. Also, we set up the Rural Urban Farming Assistance Center, wherein the farmers, as you can see, we have some partners here. We are being supported by EcoAgri, for Organic, Maize Garden, Fresh Start, Pitchings, and Villar Sipag Foundation, DOST, TESDA, DTI, and Central Philippine State University, and Colegio de San Agustin. What is going to happen here in this Farmer Assistance Center? If the farmer will come to this office and he has no seeds, we could provide him seeds. We lend him the seeds. Lend, it means that he will pay the seeds as soon as he harvests. If he has no fertilizer, we provide fertilizer. If he has no equipment, we provide him equipment. But everything is you have to pay but after harvest. As the saying will go, I am a farmer. I'm proud to be a farmer. Kung wala ko, gutom ka. Translated into, if not for me, you will go hungry. So let's support our farmers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mang Ramon. We agree with you that without the farmers, we will all go hungry. And thank you for sharing with us the progress you've made in the manufacture of your very own RU tractor or RU Oggun tractor, as well as your vision of rural industrialization in the Philippines through giving access to the right and affordable technology. With the support of the government, the private sector, and the academe, I don't think that, your vision of rural industrialization of the Philippines will not be far behind. Okay, so we're done. We're done with the presentations of all our speakers. So we now jump to this exciting part of our webinar, the Q&A session. Again, may I remind our online attendees watching the webinar via Facebook Live, please start typing your questions in the comment section, including your location or country of origin. If you are tuned in via Zoom, please post your questions in the Q&A box. I see now a couple of questions typed in the Q&A box of our Zoom, from our Zoom online attendees. So the first question is directed to Horace. Some pronounce it as Horus. Okay, so Horace, what do you say to our smallholder farmers who cannot afford an Oggun tractor? How does open systems manufacturing help them? Horace?
The concept of open systems manufacturing says that you can locally produce anything the smallholder farmer needs. So it would be very easy for Sir Ramon to produce some of the hand tools that are ergonomically designed to ensure that the farmer doesn't become as fatigued. So the key thing is, with open systems, you can look at farmers from those that use hand tools all the way to farmers that use the Oggun tractor, and you can locally produce high quality implements designed and with the designs published so that they can be made. In the case of the Philippines, with all the different islands, they could easily be made on each island by publishing design of these hand tools.
Okay, thanks.
Another piece, we will be producing a two-wheel tractor the first part of next year, which will be a lot of it will be reducing the size of the components on the power unit on the Oggun and making a two-wheel tractor.
Okay, that was the second question that I was going to ask you regarding the two-wheel tractor. So the next question is for Lyhour. Lyhour, what are your plans to manufacture the Oggun in Cambodia? Lyhour?
Okay, thank you for your question. After seeing the Oggun tractor and learning about the concept of the open system of the Oggun tractor in Cambodia is to make the open systems part of my university curriculum. In order to do so, I need to set up a team, an interesting team that have enough, knowledge to work fabrication. And we need money as well.
Yes.
So we need money as well. And fortunately, nowadays, we have a big project to improve the educational systems here in Cambodia. And my team and I can apply for that grant to get some money in advance so that we can, produce a prototype. And we keep in touch with local private sectors. We have a good relationship.
Yeah.
And we can, deliver a prototype to display or for sales there. But in order to do so, we need to convince farmers first. In Cambodia, we have a tradition saying, seeing is believing. The first thing we need to do is to show the performance of the Oggun tractors to farmers by doing the field experiments and the demonstration. If it works, we do it directly on the farmer's field. If it works, you know, it's gonna be quick. Farmers will say that the tractor is useful, is good for our farmland. So it's gonna be quick for me to, you know, the production. What we can do is do a design, and then they will do more work under the agreement private sector and my university.
Yeah, I agree with you. You need to have the buy-in of the farmers. You need to have funding, and you need to connect also with you need the support of the private sector as well for you to be able to manufacture the Oggun tractor in Cambodia. Yes, thank you so much for that. I think this one again is for Horace. This one is from Muktina Ja from Nepal. The question is, the topographic condition of Nepal is diverse. Majority of portion falls under hilly region and facing food insecurity, so they are food insecure. What will be the best model to promote hill mechanization to achieve food security? Horace?
The question is related to the use of tractors on slopes, is that?
Yes, hilly region, yeah.
Well, all tractors can be dangerous on the hilly location. So the Oggun is designed to take advantage of the width of the tractor and the center of gravity of the tractor. So it's going to be about as safe as any tractor that you could put on the hill because of that wide wheelbase and the low center of gravity, and the fact that all the weight is just over the rear wheels. So the rollover protection system on it also is there, but any time you're using a tractor on a hilly environment, you need to be extremely careful. But the Oggun is going to be as safe as any of them, safer than most.
Okay, so you are saying that there is some risk to using the tractor in a hilly region.
There is always a risk to using a tractor on any hilly environment. You know, there's engineering modeling that will show you the incline ratio that you should not try to go beyond, and we will provide that data to the manufacturers of the tractor to show, you know, just don't get on an incline above so many degrees. But with the wider wheelbase that the Oggun has, and the fact that the weight is distributed the way it is over the wheels, it's less likely to roll over than most tractors.
Okay, thank you. This one is for Dr. Victor, Sir Vic, from an anonymous attendee. Due to this pandemic, agricultural mechanization field practice is replaced with virtual classes where undergraduates are unable to do some hands-on exercise. Any advice for the undergrad to master this subject or this course at home?
Yeah, it's a nice question, but it's hard to answer.
I think so too. Yes.
Yes, and I will try to wait for this pandemic to be lifted, and we'll surely introduce this tractor to our students. It's a good tractor. It's a good machine to be studied because it's simple and so many applications, and it has a unique features compared to our imported ones. So I guess the question is, we cannot do right now during this pandemic. We cannot go out. We cannot have this face-to-face meeting. So let us wait for this pandemic to be lifted to begin and um, because as I have not mentioned in my presentation that the UPLB or the BioMakin is the lead or under the AFMEC law or the Agricultural Fisheries Mechanization law. The BioMakin is the one coordinating the research and extension activities of all higher education institutions offering agricultural engineering programs. So later on, we will contact all these agricultural engineering, these schools offering agricultural engineering. We'll offer this our services, or we will help them in this kind of extension activities.
Okay, so we will just wait for further instructions from the university system
Yeah.
on how we could offer this course again. Another question here is the next question is for Mang Ramon. Mang Ramon, how do you think we can further intensify open system manufacturing in the agricultural industry? This is from Ray Silvestre Bina of UP Los Baños. How can we further intensify the open system manufacturing?
As I mentioned earlier, we're trying to set up technology outside of the area, rural areas. No? So we have partnered with Central Philippine State University, which is located in Cabanatuan. I'm just talking about Negros, no?
Yes.
Which is located in Cabanatuan. They have 11 campuses all over Negros. Actually, these campuses are located in the rural areas. Some of them are conflict areas. So if we could bring the partial manufacturing of tractors in that area, as I mentioned earlier, there will be some mini industrialization in the area. So people will generate more income. So most probably, conflict area will be sold partly because we're going to share the technology. Not only the wound tractor that we intend to do, we also did as I mentioned earlier, the Mascobado mill and production of organic fertilizer and so on. No? So we bring the technology to the rural areas itself. And if there are areas who need some assistance in terms of equipment, we will provide initially the initial equipment. Anyway, the initial equipment would be welding machine, cutting torch, and very, very simple equipment, maybe less than 100,000 pesos. So we could provide them, maybe farm out some of the parts from Oggun. We pay them how much they're going to do. So that is part of as we mentioned, is the intensification of the production of Oggun. But we have to model first the Oggun here in our place. As soon as we finish one unit, we'll bring it out in the field. And we really have to let the farmers use it very, very intensively, extensively, so that we will know what weak area that we have made. Then until such time that we'll be able to develop good quality tractor. Of course, Mr. Horace is kind enough to share his technology, to share his technology with us. It's a laudable action by Mr. Horace. As a matter of fact, when we last month, because that thing had happened during the coronavirus problem. So we talked to each other and I said, okay, why don't you give me an authority to manufacture immediately? Good for Mr. Horace, he gave me the authority. As I told him, we told each other, we should do this in terms of trust. No? So in a way, we have the same direction, helping the farmers. So we have no problem with that direction. And Mr. Horace, as I've said, what goes around comes around. So a lot of good things will happen to Mr. Horace.
Yeah, there is great hope for that. And we look forward, Mang Ramon, to the first RU Oggun tractor that you're going to assemble for the Philippine agriculture.
We will.
The next question here is again directed to Horace. Where have you implemented the native e-commerce system for local merchants? And has there been an implementation with farmers? Horace.
We have the system running in 3 communities in Alabama where the Oggun tractor is manufactured. we have a pilot program going on in Cambodia to working with farmers to do home delivery of their products. So we're really looking forward for other countries to look at the system and start trying to provide it for farmers. The key thing that we'll be able to do, I mean, some of the things we're working in Cambodia and other places is looking at the farmers and working with restaurants to ensure what the restaurants need and working a system to provide farmers products directly to the restaurants every day. So our current activities are in 3 communities in Alabama and a pilot program in Cambodia.
Okay, thank you, Horace. There's a question here that I think any one of you can answer from Bangmo, Indonesia. I work in the Ministry of Agriculture. Today, the discussion is very interesting for me. I have a question about the Oggun products. I saw the machines are a bit different from common tractors, but the systems might be the same. But is there any report or testing regarding the tractor's ergonomic design, safety system, and how is the after-sales service of Oggun? Who wants to answer?
Well, let me take a first. So if you look at tractors out of Europe, where they tend to lead in cultivating tractors. So in most of Europe, they really don't even call them tractors. They call them tool carriers. So there are several tractors in Europe that are designed very similar. So the tractor design of the Oggun is specifically for food production type farming, for vegetable farming and food production. So it is a design that goes back originally to 1947 in the United States, a tractor made by Alice Chalmers, which was called the Alice Chalmers G. So that design is an old design and is used so that you can see what work you're doing. So you can look down, look between your feet and see the rows. That allows you to get significantly greater precision in cultivating. So with the Oggun tractor, instead of having rows 36 inches apart, because of the width of the tractor, you can easily put as many as 5 rows between the wheels, and you can easily see what you're doing. You can put 5 rows of planters in the belly attachment, and therefore you can do precision planting of 5 rows, and then you can come back and do precision cultivating. So the design of the tractor is one similar to what's used throughout Europe. You can look up Cultitrac, which is a French tractor. And so there are several out of Europe that have the same design. Was there another part of the question? I'm sorry.
How about the after-sales service?
In an open, so there are 3 things I believe a farmer takes into consideration when he buys a tractor: the initial purchase price, cost of ownership, and availability. So with an open systems design tractor, the farmer doesn't have to come back to me or so Ramon for the parts. They can if that's the most cost effective, but all of the parts are from major suppliers and they're available on a global basis. So that allows the farmer to reduce that cost of ownership because you know that the parts are available on the open market, therefore you can't be held up by John Deere or Kubota or any of the other vendor for a tractor specific part. And the repair, the design of the tractor is designed so the farmer with minimal tools can fix it in their field or their shop.
Okay, thank you for the assurance that when it comes to after-sales service, there is no problem because the parts are available in the country where the Oggun tractor is going to be manufactured. So they are all locally available.
And part of the business model is that allows the creation of people starting businesses in the country to provide service for the tractor in the case the farmer just doesn't want to be a mechanic.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
all of the concepts around the tractor are to enable everything within the supply chain of the tractor to be local businesses created to handle that.
Yes. There's another question here. Horace, I think this one is also directed to you. What are from Saraj Jaihun from Zoom? One of our Zoom, is it Zoom? Yeah, Zoom attendees. What are the 5 to 10 improved systems in the open system manufacturing areas for both hilly and flat agriculture production, as Afghanistan has both sites?
The key to open systems is that you can easily locally add things that satisfy your unique requirements. So to add a counterweight on one side of the tractor for a hilly environment is something that could easily be done by a local engineer, a local blacksmith. So since I've shipped the first tractor, I've had several people in vineyards buy the tractor because the lightweight of it, but also because they can adapt and build their own equipment for taking care of vineyards and getting under the vines. And so there are several vineyards that have purchased it. Understanding the open systems concept allows them to build and design their own unique implements.
The next question is how Oggun tractor can continue to contribute to the agriculture development of Cambodia. I think this one is for Mr. Lyhour. How can the Oggun tractor continue to contribute to the agriculture development of Cambodia and other nations in terms of sustainable intensification, economic, and accessibility if you compare it with a normal tractor?
Thank you, ma'am, for your question. You know, actually, I have had some experience with the Oggun testing used here in Cambodia, and what I can see is that the Oggun is an open source tractor, and it allows us to make any changes, and have done some modifications already to the Oggun brought to Cambodia from the US to ensure that implements can be attached easily to the Oggun to serve the farmers. And what I can see as an advantage is that the Oggun tractor is currently, I can say it is really suitable for the vegetable farming system here in Cambodia, in alignment with the government policies. My government is encouraging farmers to produce vegetables, but they don't have machinery that on small plots of lands. They have big tractors, and the tractors are used mainly for tillage. And with the use of Oggun, we can do a lot of work, transplanting and seeding, weeding at the same time as well. Because if you look at the structure of the Oggun tractor, you can see the bottom, the ground. So you can dry it on small plants that are just growing, and we can do the feeding, spraying, anything we can do. The most important thing I want to emphasize regarding the Oggun contribution to the Cambodian farming system is we plan to produce a local one that is for farmers. There's a lot of small-scale farmers, and they cannot afford to buy a big tractor, and they have to rent. And with this initiative, farmers can afford to buy. I have connected with local fabricators.
Yes.
The price is acceptable. The price of Oggun that will be produced in Cambodia is acceptable. The thing is, we need to show that it works for farmers. And is there enough? Or?
Yeah, okay, yes, you answered it very well.
Yeah.
From Philip Donald Sanchez. I have learned a lot of advantages in using the Oggun tractor based on the discussion and the experiences mentioned. However, in terms of efficiency and fuel consumption rate advantage, is there any big difference as compared to the other famous tractor brands? Mr. Horace?
Well, we designed the Oggun tractor to ensure that the farmer can drive for at least 5 hours. So I said, you can at least drive to lunchtime before you have to fill up. So the tractor engine at full throttle, which you don't need to run full throttle most of the time, but at full throttle, the Honda engine uses just under 1 gallon an hour. So we have a 5-gallon tank. So that says if you're running full throttle, you can work for 5 hours before you have to put any more fuel in. But there's very few times that you run at full throttle.
So it is fuel efficient.
Yes, it is fuel efficient.
Okay. So from Joseph Sandro, I think this one is also for you, Horace. How about the issue of HP, horsepower to weight ratio?
Well, there are two things about tractors that I say are myths that have been created by the major tractor manufacturers. So because of the weight distribution on tractors, most tractors from Kubota and John Deere are four-wheel drive, and that is because the engine, all the weight is over the front wheels, so they have to have four-wheel drive to have any traction. We designed the Oggun with all of the weight right over the rear wheel, so we get very good traction there. Remind me again, what was the other point of the question?
Yeah, that's the only question. How about the issue of horsepower to weight?
With the lightweight, we have very little requirement for any more horsepower. Out of all the tractors that we sold, we haven't had a complaint come back yet.
Okay.
Saying we don't have enough horsepower.
Okay. Mang Ramon, do you have anything to add to that? Since you are now, yes.
Yes. If you're going to look at the design of Horus, very simple. So simple repair. It could easily be repaired. No? And I think that is one of the tractors I've seen that it was really what you call empathic design. No?
Empathic design.
Empathic. You have empathy to the user. No? So you have empathy to the user.
Okay, there's another question. Thank you, Mang Ramon.
Easy to repair and so on.
Okay. This one is for, I think this one is for Dr. Rodulfo. Sir Vic, I am Ryan Garcia from Batangas City. The question is, have you designed feasible plans to ensure that Open Systems Agricultural Mechanization Program should the pandemic continue beyond 2021?
Another question.
Sorry about that.
You cannot control about that pandemic, but we will try to introduce this Oggun tractor here in the Philippines. Actually, we did not have yet any activities done with the Oggun. In our lineup of activities, we have to test first the Oggun tractor through our National Testing Center. We will try to make have a data, local data for the test of this Oggun tractor. So we will continue with this open source. We will continue with our R&D.
Yes.
And on testing and evaluation and promotional. So first we did our promotion to the manufacturers because they are we consider our manufacturers as our extension agents. Once they accept the idea of that technology, then we are confident that this will be used by our farmers. So they are our gates. They are our extension agents, the manufacturers. So with the question, anyway, we'll just continue with our R&D and extension activities for this Oggun tractor.
Yeah, okay. So we just continue with you will just continue with the R&D given the limitations of COVID-19. There's a follow-up question, Mang Ramon and also Dr. Sir Vic. The question is, do you think it's possible to tap the government officials in the Philippines for the farmers to use Oggun tractors?
Yes, I think they will be open to that because this is a Philippine-made tractor. No? So I think they're already proposing the Buy Filipino. So will be at the advantage when it comes to that. No? Of course, the price will be much cheaper than the other tractors.
Sir Vic, any
Yes.
additional comment?
We are planning to have this Oggun tractor. We will present that to our government agencies like the Department of Agriculture. Anyway, during after our workshop, there were government agencies that came and they would like also to promote this Oggun tractor in the Philippines. So from PhilRice and from PhilMech, Philippine Rice Institute, Research Institute, came over to check and see the tractor, and they are willing also to go to extend for this Oggun for the farmers. And we are collaborating also with the Philippine Center for the PhilMech.
The FilmEc,
They are
yes.
also willing. They also are willing to extend this Oggun tractor here in the Philippines.
So there is a growing interest from from agencies under the Department of Agriculture on the use of Oggun tractor. So, Sir Vic, there is a question here from Joseph Sandro. Will this tractor pass the standard stated on PAES or the Philippine Agricultural Engineering Standards? Is it for four-wheel, 4W tractors?
Yeah, I had talked with the testing center, the AMTEC, and they told me that Oggun tractor is not technically a tractor if there is no PTO, the power takeoff attached to the tractor. So they said that this will be just a simple machine if we will use the PAES. So we cannot apply the PAES, the engineering standards for Oggun tractor, but mainly because there is no, our unit at the Oggun 2, there is no PTO. But the Oggun 1, I guess they have the PTO. So, but the Oggun 1 is not. So I'm arranging right now with AMTEC test the Oggun tractor here. That's. So, but maybe by next week or next month we will have the test. We have to test the Oggun tractor. With maybe we will use some of the parts of the PAES, the methods of test of PAES, but we cannot do the testing for the drawbar or because we don't have the PTO. We use hydraulics. All components, moving components of this tractor is powered by hydraulics, and we did away with the gear powertrain or the gear system.
Okay, so we will just wait for the results of the testing. From Mr. Robert Acosta, Dr. Roberto Acosta of Erie, is there adequate government support for the Oggun tractor to succeed in the Philippines? How many units need to be manufactured and sold to reach the break-even point of profitability?
I guess Mr. Horace can answer that.
Okay.
We still don't have the experience on.
Not yet. Yes.
But Mr. Horace maybe can give us some lights on that.
Okay, Horace, how many units need to be manufactured and sold to reach the break-even point of profitability? This question is from Dr. Robert Acosta of the International Rice Research Institute.
Well, how much before profitability kind of depends on the investment to get started. So Sir Ramon could tell you how much investment he's had to put in to be able to be manufactured. and then the way we built the system. So remember, I've produced tractors and sold them all over the world, and up until recently, there was only me and one other person in the company. So my expense ratio was very low, so therefore I didn't have to produce a lot. So when you start, so the concept was create a tractor where the initial investment is minimal, and then you can grow that investment from the profitability of the production of the tractors. So I've recently, because my production has increased and I have enough of a backlog, I've recently added one more person to the assembly process. But up until that, every tractor that I sold was put together by one person.
Oh, okay. Mang Ramon, do you have any additional comment on the question or answer to the question?
Well, initially, I was not really thinking about the profit, no? Initially.
Okay, that's good to know.
Different kinds of approaching business, no? When I approach business, I see to it that it is going to run. I know it's a good equipment, it will make money. No doubt about it. So when I've seen the design of Mr. Horace, there's no question that you will be able to recover your investment whatsoever. Especially, I already talked to the OSC and they're willing to assist us in some part that will be manufactured by their machine so that will bring down the cost. So I've talked already to several government agencies where they will be able to help. And I think Secretary de la Peña is willing to help in this. So we'll bring down the cost, then profit will just follow. I think I'm a believer of that. Profit, if you're going to think about profit immediately, it will be very difficult for you to implement this project. So just implement it, then profit will just follow.
Okay, I think that's about it. We need to end this Q&A session. I'm mindful of the time. Horace is based in the USA and it's nearly midnight where he is coming from, where he comes from, I mean. So these are all the questions that we can entertain at this time. Rest assured that for all the questions that we were not able to address, we will forward them to all our speakers, and hopefully they will be able to address your questions at the soonest time possible. But before we end this seminar, may I request all our speakers for some parting message or takeaway message. We begin with Horace.
I think one of the things that I've learned over the time is that a lot of the rules and regulations around how you define a tractor have been written by the major tractor manufacturers to try to eliminate competition. So I've faced some of that here in the States and everywhere I go. And so there are things that I've, had to do to meet the requirements. So, the PTO requirement, I didn't realize that the tractor that we sold there was going to be used in the test. So it's easier to get another tractor over there with a PTO than it is to add that. But we can meet any of their requirements. But the key things that I would encourage is if anybody can have the government look at the category of the tractor and let's write the rules around things that allow vegetable farmers, smallholder vegetable farmers to use this tractor in a safe way. And let's don't try to make it adhere to John Deere standards.
Okay, thank you, Horace. Mang Ramon, any parting words?
I believe all technologies that we presented, especially the Oggun tractor, are of empathic design, as I mentioned, purposely to be farmer friendly. I believe this tractor will go a long way in terms of productivity, will bring down the cost of production in land preparation.
Thank you, Mang Ramon. Sir Vic.
It's a great challenge for us to introduce this Oggun tractor, and I believe it's a good design. It's a challenge for us because our country is import dependent on tractors. So we will continue with the R&D It's an open system, so we will continue to make it adaptable to our conditions, make it cost effective, and so on. So we will find our needs to where we can apply this to contractor. We cannot. Our contractor is just a 22 horsepower machine or tractor, and we cannot compare that with tractors for sugarcane. So anyway, we will make some designs and modifications to make it suitable for our rice and corn farms. So with the cooperation of our RDIs of the Research and Development Institutes of the government, we will continue with this project to improve, make this Oggun truck to be adaptable and profitable here in the Philippines. That's all.
Thank you, Sir Vic. And last, Mr. Lyhour, may we hear from you?
Thank you, ma'am. I have some message to deliver about Oggun tractor here in Cambodia. You know, Cambodian farmers depend so much on imported machinery. The price is high, and they have to pay a high ownership cost as well. And the thing is, we can produce a local tractor that's cheap enough and affordable to farmers. You know, the profit will be increasing in the future. And why don't Cambodian manufacturers produce tractor before? The thing is, we don't have any ideas regarding the open source systems. And fortunately, we got some ideas from experts, especially from Horus. It's become, you know, a turning point for the farm system here in Cambodia. We hope we can produce a tractor locally based on an open system concept. The thing is, this kind of tractor is open to anyone who wants to, you know, make any changes to improve it in order to reduce the cost. And it comes at the right time for Cambodia. Yes. We want to compete with other nations as well in South Asia in terms of mechanization. And if we still depend solely on imported machinery, you know, there's no way for Cambodia to improve. So that's my message. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lyhour. Once again, thank you so much to all our speakers. With SEARCA led by our director, Dr. Glenn Gregorio, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to all our speakers this morning, Horace, Lyhour, Sir Vic, Mang Ramon. We have been inspired by your passion, dedication, and commitment to finding solutions to the global food supply problem through open systems agricultural mechanization. Indeed, mechanization plays a key role in enabling the growth of commercial agri-food systems and improving the efficiency of the entire agricultural value chain. As such, it can have a major influence on the availability, accessibility of more nutritious food, contributing to increased household food security. Before we close this webinar, we request you to send us your feedback by clicking the link to a quick feedback form, which will take you just a minute to accomplish in the SEARCA Facebook page. If you registered via Zoom, you will be redirected to the feedback form before you leave the webinar room. For those who wish to receive an e-certificate for participating in today's webinar, please visit the link shown on your screen. Please note that we will only accommodate requests for e-certificates within 24 hours after the end of this webinar session. I repeat, we will only accommodate requests for e-certificates within 24 hours after the end of this webinar session. We would also like to inform everyone that we issue more than 1,000 e-certificates after each webinar. So kindly wait for your e-certificate to be issued within 10 working days. So I repeat, 10 working days. Thank you for your understanding and patience. We wish to thank those of you who sent us your feedback after last week's webinar. We really appreciate the positive feedback and suggestions, which helped us improve the conduct of our online learning conversations. Please join us again for another online conversation next week, Wednesday, 17th of June at 10 a.m. With the health crisis that we are facing right now, our webinar next week will focus on addressing emerging diseases through the EcoHealth One Health approach. The EcoHealth One Health is a holistic approach to health that integrates the various dimensions concerning humans, animals, and the environment as one. We have invited speakers from French Agricultural Research Center for International Development, or CIRAD, the Regional Office of the International Livestock Research Institute in Vietnam, or ILRI, and the Simio TropMed Regional Center for Public Health, Philippines. Please visit SEARCA's FB page for details on how to pre-register for this webinar. Let us help one another get through this COVID-19 pandemic. We hope that as we go along, we will be able to create and build a community of better, bigger, and smarter farmers and farming communities. This is Kim Bantayan of SEARCA. I hope that this week brings you grace and hope in equal measure. Thank you so much and good day.